Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to paint 3 mini canvas ornaments, and we're going to start off with the poinsettia. What I've done is used the free patterns that I will link in the video description to transfer them onto these little mini canvases from Arteza, and I will link to everything in the video description. And I'm going to start off by painting the background on this first, and I'm just going to use this light aqua color for the background. I'll do the edges later, so I'll just keep this background a solid color. That way it will be easy for me to just fill in those background bits in a few minutes. You can overlap the petals in the back a little bit. I would just kind of go over your transfer lines slightly just so there's no like graphite showing, because acrylics are opaque, so feel free to do that. You could do these in oils as well, but I think you know, for such a small size, things are going to blend just fine in acrylic, so you know, use whatever you like. Let's finish up around here, and the next color we're going to go to is phthalo green, and we're going to do a couple of leaves. And with poinsettias, the leaves and flowers are the same, so you know, they're the same shape, they're just different colors depending on how they ripen, I guess. Alright, so I'm just going to clean that off, and I'm going to grab another brush, and I'm going to go in with the phthalo green. Let's see how it looks on its own. We might need to alter it. And on the pattern, I noted which petals should be green, just because it can get confusing because they're all the same shape. So I'm going to go in and do this one here. And if you want to darken your green, you can add a little phthalo blue. And if you want to lighten it, you can add a little yellow. Yellow also makes it a little more opaque generally. And just paint each of the ones marked with a G. And it's a, you know, anytime you want to make something in like duplicate, even if it is a really simple design, it's nice if you sketch it out and make yourself a little pattern, because that way it's really easy to reproduce those. And since I was doing that, I decided that I would just make a pattern to share. That way you don't have to draw it out every time. And this would be a really fun project to do with kids, I think. So if I decided that I wanted the ends to be maybe a little bit, have a little more body, I could take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white. And I can add that right in on the tips. And I can also layer over it after it dries. So either way. If you want to make more of a shadow color, you take a little phthalo blue, a little bit of that green, and you can put that kind of where the petals overlap each other. And again, that can be done when it's dry. But it does add a little bit of depth. I want to kind of paint these all in one sitting, and I just think they'd be cute, either cute little mantle decorations if you put them on their little easels. These are what the little easels look like that come with them, or they'd be cute hung from a tree, or put on top of a gift package. So the next ones we're going to do are going to be red, and I'm just going to go ahead and, whoops, that's a crazy looking brush. I'm just going to use this little filbert brush, and I'm going to paint all of these petals crimson, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint them all. I'm just going to be careful as I get to the edges. In fact, I think maybe I will just start from the middle out. And crimson's a very transparent color, so I might even be able to see my lines that from the graphite paper. But if not, then I can, it's a pretty easy design for me to go in and put that stuff in later. As I was filling in, I noticed that I've got a big open space there. I'm going to fatten up that leaf. So I'm just going to grab a little round brush to do that with. And that will help balance the design a little bit. Okay, so to make some of the foreground petals stand out a little bit, I'm going to lighten them up. And to do that, I am simply going to use a little bit of the crimson, a little bit of yellow, mix that together, make a warmer, it's going to make a warmer red, almost kind of orange leaning red. I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. A little bit more red, and it's going to mix in with the red that's still wet on the petals. And so I'm going to go over the closer, the petals that are overlapping other petals. I need more white because it's not really showing up. And you can do that to any of those petals that you want to come forward. And I really am going for a painterly look here, which means I like the brush strokes to show, but you can, you don't have to do that. You can blend them more if you want to. And that's a little rough looking, so I'm going to refine it a little bit using a smaller brush, and I'm just tipping it so I don't have so much glare since it is all wet. And don't worry if it's messy in the middle because we're going to have some berries there. You want them to have a nice point on the end. So when you load your brush, a round brush here, give it a little twist, and that will give you a nice point on the end of your brush. And you want to make sure all of your petals have a nice point. And you can do some touching up with paint markers after too. So if you feel like you just couldn't get the control you wanted, you can touch that up. Okay, to add a little shadow to some of those back ones, I'm just going to grab a little bit of phthalo and mix it with the red, just a tiny bit, because the phthalo is so strong. You could darken the red with green, but sometimes when you add green, because it's an opposite, it does neutralize it, but it can also make it look a little dead. So, so that's why I like to darken it with a blue. And some little shadows in there for a little bit of depth. It's important not to drip any water on your painting too as you're going, because that will lift up the paint underneath. Okay, and just see if there's anything else you need to touch up while you're at it. I see that I have a little bit of bare canvas there sitting next to that little leaf, so I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll touch it up with the canvas color. There we go. Alright, so now I want to add some veins. I'm going to go with this, actually not a liner, I think I'm just going to go with a really, really small spotter brush here, because I don't have a long distance to go with any of those colors. So I'm going to do, for my veining on the leaves, I'm going to do the green and purple, green and blue together. And just simply a center vein, and then a few coming out from that. You want it fairly close to the, oops, that's way too blue. You want it fairly close to the color of your petals, so that it doesn't stand out too much. It just kind of gives you a little bit of interest. I'm just kind of filling that in because I kind of got a little, it was a little patchy. And then we are going to do the same with the red. I'm going to take the red and blue mix. Make sure you don't have any beads of water on your brush. And if you feel like you're not getting enough paint, you can go to a liner. It just has to be stiff enough to carry your paint. I think we'll go and do all the center ones on these back petals first, and then do the wispy ones. The lighter flowers in the front, the lighter petals, they're going to show up a lot more because they're lighter, and you'll have a little more contrast, and that's good because you should have more detail on the things coming closer to you. And then I'm just going to go straight to the red on its own. I'm not cleaning my brush though. I'm going to leave some of that darker color in there. And that's what I'm going to do these with. You do need to reload your brush a lot more frequently when you're using a spotter, because the bristles are so short, they just can't hold that much paint. So I'll reload it probably, yeah, I can maybe do 2 sets of veins before I have to reload it. And this is definitely just a quick and easy tutorial. I don't do acrylics that much. I do it for more like home decor projects. But it's nice because, you know, it dries quick enough that you can use it, and I think it's just fine for decoration. I'm going to add some highlights. I'm just going to clean off my brush a little bit and grab some of that white and just do a couple little, kind of just frost the edges of some of those. And then I can do the same on the green, but I think I'll mix my white with some yellow so that I get a nice warm highlight on those, and it won't go minty if it mixes in with the paint that's still wet underneath. I think actually a technique for doing this in oils would be very similar because these acrylics are not drying while we're working. And for the center little berries, I'm going to do, actually, you know what, I'm going to grab a Q-tip because that will be the easiest way to paint those. So, and I like these cheapos because they're less fluffy. And I'm just gonna grab some white and grab some yellow. Just mix it right there on my palette paper. And I'm a big fan of palette paper because you just toss it away when you're done, and you don't have to get that paint down your sink, and you don't have to spend a lot of water washing it. And look how easy that is. And of course I will paint the edges, but I'm gonna let that dry before I try to paint the edges. I think that's really sweet, and then when you put it on the easel, it's just so adorable. You want to let it, you know, when you do the edges, let the edges dry before you put it on your easel. And then if you want, you could use a couple glue dots to temporarily adhere it to the easel and put a ribbon or a string to the back of the canvas for an ornament, or you could put these on the mantle. Excuse me, and I think they would just be adorable. Now we're moving on to the hot cocoa cup, and I've already painted the background in with that same cobalt or cobalt teal, light aqua, whatever your brand calls that color of blue. And now I am going to base coat the mug white. So I'm just going in with a little angle brush here and giving it a good coating of white. I am going to try to avoid that heart in the center, but if you paint over it, don't worry about it. You can put that heart on later. Since I want to paint it all at once, I'm just trying to avoid it a little bit. And I'm painting over the marshmallows too because it's not going to hurt anything. And we are working kind of wet into wet for this technique. And use whatever brush is comfortable for you. These little angles I find are pretty easy on these tiny canvases because I can get a nice, I can get on the edge with the point of it and fill that in. The background is still wet, but I'm not going to worry about it. If it blends in with my mug a little bit, that's not the end of the world. In fact, I can always go in with a round brush. Oops, that's not a clean round brush. Let's find a clean one, and I can fill in a little bit. Use this clean one right here and fill in. And I like to see the brush strokes. I think it kind of gives it a fun painterly loose look. But if you want it smoother, then you can totally, excuse me, make it smoother. Sorry, my voice is a little froggy. It is first thing in the morning when I'm recording this. Okay, now for a little shadow in my mug and on the edge of my mug, I'm just going to take a smidgen of black and I'm going to add some white to that. I just want a very soft color, and I know some of you are probably like, oh my gosh, Lindsay's using black, what does the world come to? It's for a small ornament like this, it is a lot easier than trying to make a bunch of grays, and I'm doing a set of ornaments, and I will need black for the coal on my snowman there that you're going to see next, so I figured I'm just going to use it for all of these. Not a big deal. And a little bit on the inside of the mug. Now I also want some cocoa in the mug, so I am going to grab a little bit of burnt umber and put that on my palette, and we're going to mix that right on our dirty brush, and that's going to give us our cocoa color. I'm going to add a little bit of white to that because it's going to be a little dark on its own. We want that nice light mocha kind of color. There we go, that's pretty, isn't it? And that's going to go right in our mug and right over the marshmallows actually. Okay, so don't worry about that. We can put those marshmallows on easily. There we go. And it's over the bottom of our peppermint stick too, okay? So that will make it look like the peppermint stick is kind of leaning on the back of the mug. And then what we're going to do is we are going to grab, we'll take this little liner brush here and we're going to grab some white. We're going to make some steam. It's better to go, let's add some water to that. It's better to do this really transparent and loose than to have, because we don't want really thick steam lines. So I'm just going to put a couple little wispy lines there. Don't overdo it. You just want enough water to help carry that and keep it transparent, but you don't want so much that you're lifting that background off. Because you do have to be careful with that, because we're painting this all at once. That paint underneath is not cured yet. All right, I like that. And now we are going to paint our little heart. So I'm going to grab some red. And this brush might be a little big, but we'll give it a try. Feel free to turn your canvas so that it is comfortable for you. There, I got a little bit of blue on the edge of that brush, so it actually gives it a nice little shadow, I think. I always try to paint a little bit smaller, and then if it kind of bleeds out and gets a little big, then that's fine too. All right, so now we're going to want to paint our straw, or peppermint stick rather, white. So I'm just going to grab some white on this, and I am turning this so I can scooch it along the edge. I always try to have my bristles pointing towards the edge that I want to be nice and sharp and in focus. So that just helps me, especially with a flat brush, get a nice edge. And I can turn it, and I can do the same to the other side to get that nice edge. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to that little liner that I just used for the steam. And I'm going to grab some white. Now I just pretty much rinse my brushes in between while I'm working, but then I go and I wash them with soap and water. And I like to use the Masters brush soap. But really, as long as you clean them well, any soap should work just fine. I just find the Masters is a little forgiving if I'm kind of lax on like washing them right away. So that just helps me. Now I think maybe I'll take a little bit of black and add some white to it, and I'm going to use that as like just to outline one edge of my mug. Just going to go down the edge like this here, just to give it a little bit of definition. I can also kind of outline the edge of the mug itself. So I did the candy cane stick, and then I'm going to do the edge of the mug too. Just really, really light, because this is an ornament. It's going to have more of like a pop art type feel to it, and I want it to like kind of be obvious as to what it is when you're looking at it like from a distance while it's on the Christmas tree. And since this is going to be looked at from a distance, you don't have to, be too worried about much of anything. Okay, we're going to paint our marshmallows in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So we just want to make sure you have a nice clean brush for this. And since I'm actually using my watercolor brush method, where I kind of rinse it in the dirty water, then I rinse it in the clean water, so that it just gives me a better chance of getting that nice and clean. Just trying to get in some nice good white paint there. Get my marshmallows painted in. Really easy. I mean, they're just kind of like little swipes with the brush. Oh, I got a water drip on there, so this is probably going to be going to lift up all my paint underneath. Oh, it was all right. If you see a drip, blot it really quick, and you might need to repaint it, because water drips on acrylics before the acrylic is set up tends to just lift the paint underneath, and it can be quite problematic. And that happens a lot of times. If you see that, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, there's like a bead of water on my brush, so I just kind of wipe that away with my finger. If that slides down and gets on my my painting, that's what causes that issue. And then just to do a little shadow on those marshmallows, just to make them look 3D, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of that black on the corner of my brush and just kind of give it a little bit of a round, and so it looks like a little cylinder instead of just a instead of just a blob, I should say. Now I do want to add a little shading under the marshmallows and under the mug, and I am going to grab my aqua color that I was using first, and I'm going to add a smidgen of phthalo blue to it, and I'm going to add just a smidgen of black to that, and then I can add that underneath each of these elements to just make them pop off the page a little bit. And that's all there is to this this particular piece, and then we'll move on to our snowman next. And last ornament we're doing today is this snowman. I've already base coated the back with a combination of aqua, because I used that on the other two ornaments, and some phthalo blue because I wanted it a little bit darker, kind of like a night sky. So I'm just going to use white, and I'm going to base coat in the snowman's face. I'm going to go around the carrot, but I'm going to go right over the coal for the mouth, and I am going to do, I'm doing the center first because you can see it's so easy to pick up some of that wet background, but then I am going to work on the edge so that I actually get a little bit of shading when I go and paint those nice crisp edges. So I'm going to off center him a little bit. I'm going over the carrot there just so I can continue that stroke, and there I'll have some nice kind of shading there on the edges. And snow reflects all sorts of colors, so so that's actually a happy little thing there. So I'm going to use a Q-tip just to wipe the paint out of the nose area, so when I go to paint that orange it doesn't make a problem. And then I'm going to use that same Q-tip, and I'm going to pick up some black, and I am just going to dab on that coal. You can scribble it a little bit and make it uneven. You do not want perfect little circles. I mean, it would still be cute, so if you have perfect circles, don't worry about it, but definitely go for ones that are a little bit you know, imperfect, I would say. And now I'm going to just grab one of my previously used brushes and just clean it as best I can here without soap and water on my table. And I'm going to do the pipe, and I'm going to use the brown burnt umber, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that and a little bit of white because I don't think it's going to be that opaque on its own. And I am just going to paint that in, and then just give it a little stem there. I'm actually going to make it a little bit fatter because I painted the edges already. I shouldn't have done that yet because now I'm getting it all over my hands. I'm just going to make that a little bit fatter because I left a gap between the face and the pipe. And just, you know, you just want to get a fairly good coverage. We'll go in and add some shadow and highlight to it in a bit, but just want to kind of base coat that in. And I am just going to wipe this brush off as best I can because I do like this little angular, this is a 1/4 inch angle brush, works great for these tiny little ornaments. I'm going to take my yellow, a little bit of red. This is a crimson and it's really strong, so just use a smidgen. And then I'm going to try base coating in with that and see how it looks, and then I can add a highlight to it. Try to not touch the background if it's still wet until you absolutely have to. And I think I'm going to be able to sneak in there all right. And I am going to, oh, I wish I didn't paint those edges yet because I'm getting paint all over my fingers. There we go. Probably should have let the background dry, but sometimes when you're doing these, you just want to get them done. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my small round brush just because this is a tiny ornament and it's a lot easier to work with that. I am going to go with a little bit of highlight on the edge. Just make sure you don't have any beads of water, and I'm just going to kind of streak that. I'm actually going to highlight both edges to make it look a little more round. I like the painterly look of seeing the brush strokes. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of brown and add that into the orange, and I'm going to put some little carroty marks on the edge. Add a little more red to that because it's not very strong, just to make it look a little bit more like a carrot. And give it a little shadow. And let's see if I have any brown left on its own. I'm going to add a smidgen of black to that so I can do the inside of the pipe here. And I'm also going to do that black on the stick there. And I'm going to outline it because I feel like I really don't have very much dimension there, or definition there. Okay, and you can even take some of that black to, you know, add a shadow on one side of the carrot. That does make it stand out a little bit better. And there, that's pretty much all you need to do there. I do want to add a little bit of steam, or smoke actually, coming out of the pipe. So I'm going to grab some white for that. I'm just going to maybe add a smidgen of water just to kind of make it a little more transparent. Don't add too much or you're going to end up with lifting up the color underneath. So I'm just going to just do a few little smoke lines. I picked up a little bit of black from the pipe, but that's all right because smoke can be black. And I was gonna put on some stars. Like if we look at the pattern here, we've got these little kind of like little primitive snowflakes there, but then I thought, you know what, I think I'm gonna flick that on with a toothbrush. So I'm gonna dip my toothbrush in water. I'm gonna pick up what's left of the white. Hopefully I can get enough clean white there. I think it's all right. And then I am going to just kind of flick it on there. There. And I'm just going, and against the blue it looks perfectly white. Against the snowman it does look a little yellow, so we don't want yellow snow on our snowman, so I'm just going to tap that off. Maybe I will put a couple little snowflakes on there now that I see that it does look like it needs a little something else, because it is so simple. So to do your snowflake, you just make a line down, make a line across. You will need to reload because you're going to pick up, you know, your background color, and then cross it again. And you can do that for as many times as you want. I'm going to do 3 because I think things look good in 3s. And try not to have any water in that mix that you're doing, because it will make it hard to stand out. And you just need a steady hand for this, and maybe I'll do one more right up here, a small one. And that's all there is to that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. It was so much fun to bring it to you, and I think these ornaments are absolutely adorable and so quick and easy to make. You can even make it with your kids or grandkids. Thank you so much for watching. If you like quick videos like this, please, I guess it was long, but it was 3 quick projects, give me a thumbs up and tell your friends. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.